that this evening I want to explore this idea of what it means for us to grow and to make the greatest impact in the world during our lifetime that we can make. So just a small topic tonight. How can you have the greatest impact in the world during your lifetime? That's the question I want to explore tonight. And I'm not going to give you the whole answer. That would be a great talk, wouldn't it? But I want to give you one principle that I think if we are putting into place, we have a chance to be doing that, to be making the greatest impact during our lifetime that we can. And the title of what I want to say this evening is very simply the word exponential. Can anyone tell me what the word exponential means? I'm hoping there's a few scientists or mathematicians. I can see a hand. Yeah, go for it.
It means there's a constant change.
Okay.
Increases by half.
Yeah, so y equals e to the power of x is another way of doing it. I have a great joke about e to the x later on if you want to come and ask me any mathematicians. But absolutely right. So mathematically speaking, exponential growth is when things are not just growing in a sort of linear fashion, where things are growing, that they're increasing by the same amount every single time, but it is sort of explosive growth. It is something that grows, and the curve just keeps on going up and getting faster and faster and faster. For those of you who are not mathematicians, think of it as a sort of reproduction that just gets out of control and ends up going far faster the more time it goes on. It is accelerating growth. And I want to talk about one thing that I think we can be doing very simply as Christians, and actually I think it is very simple, that can create some of that kind of explosive, reproductive, exponential growth. And I want to base what I'm saying on one verse that we find in Paul's second letter to Timothy. This is Paul, an older man, talking to Timothy, a younger man, and sharing some advice, sharing some instruction for how it is that he should be a leader in the churches that he is involved in. 2 Timothy chapter 2, and I'll read verses 1 and 2, but it's verse 2 I want to focus on. Verse 1 says this: "You then, my child, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus." This is the bit. "And what you have heard from me, through many witnesses, entrust to faithful people who will be able to teach others as well." That's what I want to talk about tonight. What you've heard from me through many witnesses, entrust to faithful people who will be able to teach it to others as well. You see, when Paul is talking to Timothy, he's not just saying, "It's all right, Paul, I've got the answers, I'm going to share them." He's not even just saying, Paul, I'm going to talk to you, Timothy, and I'm going to share so that you can go and be the answer to all the problems and all the situations that you're facing. So it's not about Paul, and it's not even just about Timothy, because he says, then pass that on to faithful people. Go and find faithful people that you can then pass that on to as well. See, it starts with Paul, goes to Timothy, and then it's gone on to faithful people. But it doesn't even just stop with those faithful people, because then it carries on, who will be able to teach others as well. See, Paul, as a man, can be in one place at one time. And he had a pretty prolific letter-writing career, so he could sort of extend his influence beyond that. He had an impact over a wide area of space. But one of the things that Paul was committed to was to building other people up. Who could then build other people up? Who could then build other people up? And it grows, and it doesn't just start with one person, then become 2 people, and then become 3 people, and then become 4 people. It starts with one person, then becomes 2 people, then becomes 4 people, then becomes 8 people, and then becomes 16 people, and it keeps on growing. It's that exponential, that explosive growth. Paul could have sat back and thought, you know what? I am one of the apostles, one of the first apostles of the church. I've had an encounter with Jesus, the risen Christ. I know all the answers. You need to look to me. He didn't do that. Paul could have said, I'm the solution. I have all the skills. I have all the gifts. It's all about me. And made everyone come through him. He didn't do that. He was committed to releasing and investing in other people so that other people could take on that baton and could spread that. But in turn, he then instructed them to pass it on further. I want to tell you about a lady called Sally Pettifer, a very influential lady in my life. She royally stitched me up. When I was about 16, I was part of a church family in Reading, where I grew up. And we decided as a church family that we were going to start running a children's summer holiday Bible club. And a lady called Sally had done this elsewhere, she was responsible for heading up the team. And she came up to me one Sunday and she said, She didn't know me that well, but she knew me a little bit. And she said to me, Dave, would you be all right to come to a meeting about this holiday club? I'd be interested in any of your thoughts, and we're hoping to do some drama stuff, and I was wondering if you could be involved in it. And I thought, fine, yeah, don't have anything better to do. I'm sure I can do that, and it'd be quite fun to be involved in the holiday club, so okay, I'll do that. Partway through that evening, what she said was, you know what, I actually think it'd be better if 2 people were sort of up front hosting the whole thing instead of just 1 person. So anyone up for doing that with me? And no one really spoke. And then she said, Dave, what about you? Would you be interested in doing that? And I went, okay, fine, yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I guess I could. And so then, over the next few weeks and months, as we were planning this whole thing, she met up with me a few times, and she was sort of talking through what my role would be and how I would do things. But I realised that she was talking to me about things that were nothing to do with hosting things up front, and nothing to do with the role that I specifically had. And she was involving me in other decisions, and I didn't quite know why. Then, when the week finished, at the end of that week, she said, that was good, wasn't it? Next year, let's lead this together. We'll do it as equals. And I went, hang on a second, I'm just the guy that does the dramas. And she said, no, I think it'd be great. Let's do it together. I think you've got some great ideas. We should work on it together. Anyway, the next year comes around, and we worked on it together. Only halfway through the preparation process, she said, actually, you know what, Dave? I know we're doing this together, but do you want to take a lead in some of the meetings? Do you want to be responsible for a few more bits? And she was actually gradually passing responsibility for the whole thing over to me. Like I said, she stitched me up. And then the third year, after that second year, she said, next year, you lead, and I'll be there to support you in any way you need. But you're in charge. You're the one that's going to send the emails. You're the one that's going to lead the team. At this point, I was 18. She said, you're the one that's going to run this whole club. The first year, we had about 30 children come. By the third year, we were up to about 80 children. It was growing, and it was getting bigger, and it was gathering excitement and momentum. And at the same time, she was taking a boy who didn't really feel very qualified to do anything to do with it, and was putting me into a position of leadership. Then at the end of the third year, she said to me, yeah, next year I'm not going to come. Just do it. Actually, no, don't just do it. Find someone else to lead it with you, and you train them up like I've trained you. And I thought, what? You've stitched me up. Now and so far as I know, the holiday club is still going. And that was years and years ago. And I did that. And I don't know if I did a particularly good job of it, but she was far more qualified to lead that holiday club all 4 of those years than I was. She'd done it donkeys of time isn't a thing, but she'd done it loads of times before. She was very qualified to do it, and she could have done a far more efficient and probably more professional and better job of it than me. And yet, she wasn't just thinking about the short term. She wasn't just thinking about whether or not we could do a holiday club this year. She was thinking about raising up and investing in other leaders so that actually she could go off and do something elsewhere. Well, she wasn't needed anymore. She was leading invisibly after a while, instead of leading by having to be there and have her hands on the reins. The very first time I ever preached was on a youth weekend away when a guy called Andy McConville, any Old Testament scholar fans, and I'm sure there's loads of you in the room, son of the famous Old Testament theologian Gordon McConville. And since that's interested none of you, I'll carry on. But this guy, Andy McConville, was the senior youth leader in the church that I was part of when I was at university. And he said to me one Sunday, Dave, would you come and do the talks at the youth weekend away we've got in a few months? And I said to him, okay. And I was thinking to myself, you've done this loads of times. You'd be far better than me. I've never stood up in front of people and spoken in this way. I didn't say that to him. I just said yes, because I'm not very good at saying no. But he gave me responsibility that actually I wasn't completely ready for, that I wasn't completely qualified for, that I wasn't experienced in. And he just let me do it. And he supported me and he helped me. He could have done a better job than me. But he wasn't just looking at the present needs. He wasn't just saying, how can we run one really good youth weekend away? He was thinking about raising and investing someone else. Come back to that question. How can you have the greatest impact during your lifetime in the world? How can you do it? Well, I believe that there is a principle that we can all adopt, and it's this. Every Paul needs to have a Timothy, and every Timothy needs to have a Paul. And I think both of us need to be both. I mean, all of us need to be both the whole time. Where is it that you can be like Paul? Where is it that you have been gifted something? God has given you something. God has placed it within you, and he's asked you to steward it. Where is it that you can pass that on to other people? Where is it that you can not just look at the short term, not just look at how you can do it because you know that you're good at it and you know that you're excellent at it, and if you do it, it will be a safe pair of hands and it will be done really well. Where is it that you can pass those things on? What gifts has he given you? I work up in the office up there, and one of the things that I get to witness is some of my colleagues and the way that they're working and who it is that's coming and visiting them. And it's not uncommon for Josh Bishop to be visited by someone else from the music team, from the worship team. And a few weeks ago, he was sat chatting with someone, and they'd come, and he was giving them some advice in musicianship and leading worship and those sorts of things. And he was teaching them how to properly string a guitar. And I was sat there thinking, this is great. This is someone who is passing on a skill to someone else. This is someone who is saying, I don't have to be up there every single week playing my guitar and leading worship. Why? Because it'd be far better if I've built a team of people who can do that. That's an example from within church life, but maybe there's examples from outside of this. What gifts has God given you? What resources has God given you? What experiences have you had? What passions has God birthed in you? We heard the story of Amy Jane and that team going to Derby because God had placed a passion in them that they didn't just want to hold to themselves. They have a passion for Jesus and for making him known. That has led them to a specific place to reach out to people in a very specific way. Where are the passions that God has placed within you? Might not be a passion for church planting. Might not be a passion for it might even be a passion for church. That's cool. Might not be a passion for, I'm using very churchy illustrations, probably because I work in a church. But do you have a passion for the world of finance? Do you have a passion for teaching? Do you have a passion for helping people to find wholeness and wellness? What spheres of influence do you have? What are the things that God has given you that he hasn't given me? What is it that God has given you specifically? And with those things, I want to ask you two questions. One is, are you pursuing it to the absolute fullest? And I would say that if you are, then one of the things that means is that you'll be seeking out a Paul. You'll be seeking out someone who you can turn to, who can inspire you, who can invest in you, who can give you advice and tips and guidance. One of the things that I think we all need to be doing is saying, if this is something God has given me, I need to pursue it to its absolute fullest. So who can help me? Who is it that I can ask to speak into that part of my life? As a parent, or as a spouse, or as a person who is single, or as a person who's employed, or as a person who's unemployed. Who can you look to who you see doing those things? Maybe just a little bit more excellently than you are. You don't need to find the perfect parent. You don't need to find the perfect spouse. You don't need to find the perfect doctor or nurse or banker. You don't need to find the perfect someone, but someone who's a little bit further in the journey than you. Who can you look to invest in you? That's the first question. Are you pursuing that thing God has given you to the fullest? Second question is this. Are you passing it on? Are you deliberately, actively looking to people that you can invest in? Overcoming that desire to put yourself forward and to be doing the things because you know you could do them well. Overcoming a short-term mentality and saying, if these things have been given to me by God and God outlasts me, then these things need to outlast me as well. I need to pass these on to people while I can. I need to invest in those things so they don't die out with me. What is it that God has given you? And if you're a Christian, there's one thing that God has definitely given you, and it's faith. God has given you a gift of faith, to believe in him, to know him, to have a relationship with him, to trust him. He has given you that. So I'm going to ask the same two questions of that. If God has given you faith, are you pursuing it to its absolute fullest? And are you passing it on? Are you investing in your own discipleship? Are you investing in your faith? Are you trying to grow deeper in that? And who are you putting in your place to do that? Who do you look to and admire? Who is it that you think, there's something that they've got and I want to be spurred on by that? I am so grateful to those people in my life who are role models, who spur me on, who challenge me, who educate me, who don't let me give the easy answers. Who are those people for you? And if there isn't someone, find someone. If you want help finding someone, come and talk to someone. What would it look like for a whole church to be full of people who are Pauls and Timothys, who are investing in one another, who are spurring one another on, who are encouraging one another? Where we're not saying we'll each get on with our own bit, we'll be independent, we'll just look after ourselves and let everyone else do the same thing. What would it look like for people who say, what you've heard from me, go and pass it on to other people, who can then share it with others? In Matthew 28, we hear the Great Commission, where Jesus says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded, for surely I'm with you to the very end of the age. Teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded, including this very command that phrase is found in, to go and make disciples. Making disciples, obedient disciples, who are obedient to the call to go and make more disciples, who are obedient to the call to go and make more disciples. There is something in this, in the Great Commission, that says to me, disciples make more disciples. They don't just make converts. They don't just bring someone to a church gathering. That's a good thing to do, but it's not the whole deal. It's not the whole shebang. There's far more to this life and this faith than that. I want to be able to look back at the end of my life and not just see people that I have brought to faith. I want to be able to see that. I'm thankful for the people that I can see that in already. I want that list to grow. I want there to be more people, and I pray that you do as well. I pray that you don't want to keep this faith to yourself. I pray that you understand the magnitude of this faith and this gift and this salvation that God has given you, so much so that you want to pass that on. But I don't just want to look back and see a list of people who have come to know Jesus because of me. I want to see an even bigger list of people who have come to faith because of the people that I've shared Jesus with. That is how we have exponential growth. That is how we can have a huge impact on the world during our lifetime. There's some things that we have to shun in order for that to work, though. We have to shun a short-term mentality that says what's most important is short-term quick results. We have to be willing to invest in the long haul. We have to be willing to see the big picture. We have to shun independence. We have to shun this idea that I can do it by myself. I need you. You need me. We need one another in this journey. We have to shun ourselves a little bit. It can be very easy to say, well, I'm good at this, or this is something God's gifted me with, and so I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to pursue it, and I'll let it become about me, because actually I think I probably could do it better than anyone else. If we have that mentality, then we won't have a mentality that is all about releasing and sending out and going further. We have to shun this desire for looking strong, looking like we've got it all together, looking like we can fix it all by ourselves. Comes back to the independence thing. So that question again, how can you have the greatest impact in the world during your lifetime? I believe one of the things that you need to have for that to happen is a mentality that says, I need people for the journey I'm on. And there are people whose journeys I want to be on with them. Who's investing in you? And who are you investing in? Think about the career you're in if you're in work. Think about the passions or the hobbies you have if that applies to you. Think about the time and your time and the way that you spend it. There are bound to be people who are in similar lanes to you. I had a friend who was a teacher, and she regularly met up with another lady in the church who was a little bit older, talking about what it means to be a Christian in school, praying for one another. This lady had learnt a lot of things over the years. I wasn't to say she had all the answers, but there was a desire to invest in someone else who was stepping into that same place with that same passion, filled with the same spirit, pursuing the same God and the same kingdom. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing if across this room there were connections made because of similar walks of life or similar experiences or similar giftings. And we could say, you know what, I'm going to allow you to birth that more deeply in me. And let's together seek to make a difference in that sphere. So I want to ask you simply to reflect on those two questions. Who are the Pauls in your life? And who are the Timothys? Who are you allowing to speak into your life? And where are you then taking that in order to speak into others? I want to give you a few moments to think about that. And then we're going to worship God together. And my hope and prayer is that over the rest of our time together, which won't be long, we won't be around here forever, but over the rest of our time together this evening, God would be birthing little things in us, passions or gifts or connections across our church family. I want to pray for us. Father, I don't know the exact percentage of people in this community who do not know you. But I know that it's too high. I don't know the states of the places that we will all be on Tuesday after we've enjoyed a bank holiday. I don't know whether there are people here who might be the only Christian in the building that they're going to be in. I can't speak to all the different situations, all the different opportunities we have. But I know this, that you want to see each of them impacted by your kingdom. I know that you want to see your kingdom grow. And I know that you want to use us for it. And I know that by myself, I wouldn't have achieved some things in my life that I have. And I know that by myself, I can achieve nothing really of worth in the days I still have to come. So I ask that you would be continuing to place in my life and in each of our lives those people who can spur us on. Give us the humility and the courage to seek them out. Give us the courage and the humility not to think ourselves so good that we don't need help, or ourselves so good that we don't need others to help us. Father, I pray that you would be releasing that Paul and Timothy bond across all of our hearts, across our church family, that ultimately many would see you because we are the very best that we can be, because we are pursuing excellence in every area of our life, leaving no stone unturned as we pursue that goal. Lord, would you enable us to enable others? In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.